Stop everything, because what I'm about to tell you will make your blood boil, and then it will make you stand up and cheer. Picture this. You're 32 years old. You've built everything from nothing. Your apartment overlooks the Orlando skyline. Your bank account finally has more than 3 digits. You worked 3 jobs through college. You sent money home to your dad every single month. And you did it all without her. The woman who walked out when you were 9. The woman who chose a man over her own daughter. The woman who sent birthday cards with no love, no warmth, just proof she existed somewhere, living a life that didn't include you. 23 years of silence. And then, one autumn evening, a knock at your door. Sharp, deliberate, like a blade cutting through everything you'd built. You open it, and there she is, your mother, smiling, like she never missed a single thing. And beside her, a teenage boy you've never met, your half-brother, slouched, scrolling his phone, sneakers already over your welcome mat, like he owns the place. She looks around your apartment, the view, the furniture, the life you built without her, and says, "I heard how much you make now. Family helps family." The boy smirks. 60 grand for tuition. 3,000 a month. You can handle that. Your pulse pounds in your ears. You don't argue. You don't scream. Because you already know. This isn't a visit. This is a raid. Before I tell you how I exposed them, protected everything I'd built, and finally closed a door that should have been locked decades ago, I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now. Where are you watching from? And if you've ever had to protect yourself from family who only showed up when they wanted something, type boundaries in the comments. Because this story, it's for every person who's ever been treated like an ATM by people who should have loved them first. Now let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a small Ohio town where the winters felt longer than they should have. The kind of place where the air smelled like snow and possibility, and where the scent of fryer oil clung to my father's clothes every single night. My dad, David Foster, ran a tiny diner on the edge of Main Street. It wasn't fancy. 3 red vinyl booths, a flickering neon sign that buzzed when it rained, a coffee pot that never stopped brewing. But it was ours, and after Mom left, that diner became our lifeline. I was 9 years old when she walked out. No warning. No goodbye, just the slam of a car door and the sight of her suitcase wobbling down the front steps. I remember standing at the window, my breath fogging the glass, watching her taillights disappear down the street. She never looked back. Not once. Dad told me later she'd met someone else, a man who promised her a better life. For years, I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, did better mean a life without me? What was so wrong with me that she couldn't stay? Those questions haunted me through childhood like ghosts I couldn't shake. Dad tried to fill both roles, but he was already stretched so thin you could almost see through him. Every morning at 5 a.m., he'd unlock the diner and fire up the grill. By the time I came home from school, he'd smell like bacon grease and black coffee, his fingers nicked from the meat slicer. But no matter how exhausted he was, no matter how many hours he'd been on his feet, he'd still sit across from me at our wobbly kitchen table and ask, "How was math club today, kiddo?" Sometimes he'd doze off mid-sentence, chin dipping toward his chest, and I'd just smile and whisper, "It was good, Dad." Then I'd cover him with a blanket and do my homework in silence. Money was always tight. The lights flickered whenever the heater kicked on. There were weeks when the fridge held nothing but milk and half a jar of strawberry jam. So I learned to work. I started babysitting at 12, stacking shelves at a corner store by 14, cleaning houses by 15. Every single dollar I earned went to rent, groceries, or gas for Dad's rusted pickup truck. He'd scold me. "You shouldn't be worrying about bills, Jess. You're just a kid." But I'd shrug it off. Worrying was the only way I knew how to help. School became my escape hatch. Numbers made sense when nothing else did. I joined math club, entered competitions. Stayed late to tutor other students. When teachers talked about college, I listened like they were describing a secret world I might someday break into. At 17, I earned a full scholarship for data analytics at a state university. The night the acceptance letter came, Dad cried at the diner counter, wiping his eyes with a dish towel, hands still dusted with flour. "You're getting out," he said, voice shaking. "You're going to make something bigger than this." I hugged him so tight, I thought we'd both break. College was hard, but it was mine. Tuition was covered by the scholarship, but food, rent, and textbooks weren't. So I worked, mornings as a waitress, afternoons filing papers at a law office, nights cleaning office buildings, until my hands smelt like disinfectant and my eyes burned from exhaustion. My schedule was a blur of bus rides, cheap instant noodles, and lectures I fought to stay awake through. I'd come home at midnight, collapse on my twin mattress, and wake up 4 hours later to do it all again. But I felt free. For the first time in my life, I was building something on my own terms. By graduation, I had a degree, a job offer, and a quiet fire burning inside me. I moved to Orlando for a data analyst position at a growing tech company. The first paycheck felt surreal, more money than my dad had ever made in a month. I sent him $500 immediately, then more, whenever I could. He hated taking it, said I'd earned it for myself. But I wanted him to rest. Even just a little. He'd given me everything. Now it was my turn. Years passed, promotions came. I bought a sleek apartment in downtown Orlando, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city lights I used to dream about as a little girl, pressing her nose against a cold Ohio window. My co-workers became my second family, lunches with Nina from accounting, volunteering on weekends with Kara, coffee runs with Ryan, the neighbor who always carried 2 mugs, one for himself, one for whoever needed it. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. But some nights I'd open a drawer in my bedroom and stare at a stack of old birthday cards, all from her, every one of them the same. Happy birthday. Hope you're doing okay. No love. No warmth. No apology. Just proof that she still existed somewhere, living a life that didn't include me. I'd hold those cards and wonder why I wasn't enough for her to stay, why I wasn't worth fighting for. So when she suddenly reappeared at my door that autumn evening, smiling like nothing had ever happened, it felt like the ground had cracked open beneath me. I had built everything from scratch: career, peace, purpose. And now the ghost of my past had found my address. Quick pause. If you're still with me, hit that like button right now. Because what happens next? It gets so much worse before it gets better, and you're going to want to see how this ends. The day after that knock, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mum's smile and Caleb's smirk bleeding into the glow of my doorway. Part of me wanted to believe she'd come to apologize, to bridge the 23-year canyon between us, but the way she'd said family helps family played in my head like a taunt, not a plea. By morning, she texted, "Lunch? My treat. There's so much to catch up on." I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Curiosity won over instinct. Maybe I needed to hear her out. Just once. Just to close the book properly. We met at a crowded cafe near my office. The smell of espresso clung to the air. Chatter rose and fell like static. I spotted them immediately. Mom, in a floral blouse that looked too new for someone supposedly struggling. Caleb slouched beside her, AirPods in, scrolling his phone. She stood when I approached. "Julia, honey, you look amazing." Her hub was stiff, perfumed, foreign, like embracing a stranger wearing my mother's face. I sat opposite her, careful not to meet Caleb's eyes. Mum started with small talk, the traffic, my hair, the weather. Then, with a practiced sigh, she shifted tone. "You know, Your father made it impossible for me to stay in touch. The words slid out smooth, rehearsed. He shut me out completely after the divorce. I blinked, heat rising behind my ribs. That's not true, I said quietly. He begged you to call. I was there. She looked wounded for a moment, then waved it off. I did what I could. I was struggling too, Julia. Life hasn't been easy for me. Caleb finally looked up from his phone. We've had it rough, he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Dorms, cheap cars. It's not fun. He laughed like it was a joke. Mum patted his arm, then turned back to me. Caleb's tuition is $60,000. We just need a little help getting started. Maybe $3,000 a month until he's settled. I set my coffee down slowly. $3,000 a month, she smiled, eyes shining like she was asking me to lend her a cup of sugar, not a small fortune. You're doing so well, sweetheart. You make more than you need. The air thinned. How do you even know what I make? She froze for half a second, then recovered with a flutter of her hand. People talk. Old friends. You know how it is. I stared at her, realizing she'd done more than just hear things. My father's voice echoed in my mind. Keep your accounts private, kiddo. Some people only see what they can take. Caleb leaned forward, elbows on the table. You're acting like we're strangers, he said, smirking. We're family. You should want to help. I swallowed hard. I am family, but that doesn't mean I'm a bank. Mum's smile faltered. You don't have to be cold, Julia. We came to you, not out of greed, but because we trust you. There it was, the manipulation wrapped in sentiment. I'd seen it before. In the eyes of customers who tried to guilt Dad into free meals. I pushed my chair back. I'll think about it. Caleb rolled his eyes. Yeah, sure you will. Mum's voice sharpened, almost scolding. Don't forget who raised you. That stung more than I wanted it to. I grabbed my bag, heart pounding. Dad raised me, I said, and I walked out before my voice could break. Outside, the Florida sun felt too bright. I stood on the sidewalk trembling, realizing that lunch hadn't been about reconnection at all. It was reconnaissance. And deep down I knew they'd be back. 2 nights later they showed up again. No call, no warning. Just another sharp knock that rattled my door. I hesitated before opening it, praying it was a delivery driver. It wasn't. Mum stood there with a paper-thin smile, Caleb behind her, holding a takeout cup like he owned the place. We were in the neighborhood, she said, brushing past me before I could respond. Her perfume filled my apartment, artificial and invasive. Caleb dropped onto my couch, sneakers on the rug, scrolling his phone. Nice place, he muttered. Could use a bigger TV, though. I bit down on my breath. Why are you here? Mum glanced around, her eyes lingering on the framed degrees, the city view, the evidence of everything I built without her. I just thought we could talk again, she said sweetly. I don't want tension between us. Then stop asking for money. Her smile tightened. Julia, please. You have so much, and Caleb's trying to build a future. You can't understand what it's like, scraping by. I crossed my arms. I do understand. I lived it. Caleb laughed. Yeah, but you're fine now. So what's the big deal? Mum shot him a look, then turned back to me. Just a little help. $3,000 a month isn't much to someone like you. Something inside me snapped. How would you know what's much to me? Her eyes flicked sideways. I heard things. I know your salary. I know you can afford it. My stomach turned cold. How do you know that? She didn't answer. Instead, her gaze drifted toward my desk. Caleb followed her look. Stop, I started. Too late. He was already there, fingers tapping my laptop's touchpad. My financial dashboard glowed on the screen, open from earlier that morning. My pulse roared in my ears. What are you doing? Caleb didn't even flinch. Just checking how rich you really are, he said with a smirk. Mum's voice cut in, syrupy but sharp. We're family, Julia. Why would you hide anything from us? I slammed the laptop shut so hard the sound echoed through the apartment. You went through my things. She crossed her arms, her tone hardening. Don't be dramatic. We just wanted to see how you're doing. How I'm doing? My voice cracked. You hacked Dad's email to find out where I work. You broke into my life. Again. Her face paled. Don't blame me for your father's failures. I had to know you weren't wasting your potential. Caleb snorted. He's a loser anyway. You're better off without him. That was it. The room blurred. I could hear my heartbeat like thunder. Get out. Mom blinked. Excuse me? Get out. Now. Before I call the police. Caleb stood, muttering. You're insane, Mum's face, twisted, anger breaking through her mask. You'll regret this, Julia. One day you'll need us. I walked to the door and opened it. Voice steady, hands shaking. I needed you for 20 years, and you were never there. They hesitated, then left. The door clicked shut behind them. Silence filled the room. Heavy, electric, but for the first time, it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like freedom sharpened into steel. I didn't cry that night. I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the laptop they'd touched. The anger wasn't loud anymore. It was cold. Razor sharp. Focused. All those years, I believed silence meant peace. Now I understood. Silence could also be a weapon. I opened my laptop and began to trace what they'd done. My work as a data analyst had trained me to notice patterns. Irregular login timestamps. Digital footprints people thought they'd erased. Within minutes, I found it. A forwarded email from my father's account to my mother's. The subject line, my full name. Attached was a payroll summary I'd sent Dad months ago when I was helping him file taxes. The forwarding timestamp, 2 weeks earlier. From an IP address I didn't recognize. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. I printed everything. Organized it into a folder, labeled it Evidence. Then I called Dad. He picked up after the second ring, voice gravelly from years of coffee and late nights. Hey, kiddo. Everything okay? Dad, I said softly. Did you send Mum my salary information? He paused. No, I would never. Then realization hit. She's been in my email, hasn't she? I could hear him exhale, tired and sad. That woman never learned boundaries. The tightness in my chest eased, just a little. I'm handling it, Dad. I just needed you to know. The next morning, I called Mark Sullivan, a lawyer one of my co-workers had recommended. His voice was calm, efficient, professional. I told him everything. The hacked email, their invasion of my apartment, the financial information they'd accessed without permission. He didn't flinch. You have proof? Yes, I said, sliding the folder across his desk later that day. He flipped through the pages, nodding slowly. We'll file for a restraining order, and you'll want to notify your bank's fraud department immediately. Hearing those words felt like breathing clean air after years of smog. Someone finally understood. This wasn't family drama. This was violation.